They hurt you. Again, you know you should leave. Everyone tells you to leave. You tell yourself you're going to leave. But then they apologize. They cry. They promise it'll never happen again. They tell you they love you. They show you the person you fell for. And you stay. Not because you're weak. Not because you're stupid. Not because you don't know better. But because something inside you has become attached to them in a way that doesn't make sense. In a way that feels stronger than logic. Stronger than self-preservation. Stronger than love itself. Welcome to trauma bonding, the invisible chain that keeps people trapped in relationships that are slowly destroying them. Today, we're going to understand why the brain does this, why pain and love get tangled together, why leaving someone who hurts you can feel harder than staying, and by the end, you might finally understand why you couldn't just walk away, or why someone you love keeps going back. Because trauma bonding isn't about weakness, it's about survival. An understanding that changes everything. Let's start with what trauma bonding actually is, because most people get it wrong. When people hear trauma bonding, they think it means connecting with someone over shared trauma, like two people who both lost a parent bonding over that shared experience. But that's not what it means, not even close. Trauma bonding is when you form an emotional attachment to someone who abuses you. When the person hurting you becomes the person you can't imagine living without. It's when abuse and love get so mixed up in your brain that you can't separate them anymore. And here's what makes it so powerful, so impossible to escape. Your abuser isn't cruel all the time. If they were, you'd leave. Anyone would. But they're not. They cycle. They hurt you. Then they love you. They tear you down. Then they build you back up. They're your worst enemy and your best friend, your greatest pain and your only comfort. And that cycling, that unpredictability, that's what creates the bond, the trauma bond. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Let me explain how it works. Imagine a slot machine. You put in money. Sometimes you win. Most times you lose. But you keep playing, because you never know when the next one is coming. That uncertainty, that unpredictability keeps you hooked. More than if you won every time. More than if you lost every time. The randomness is what makes it addictive. Now imagine that slot machine is a person. Sometimes they're amazing. Sometimes they're terrible. You never know which version you're going to get. But when they're amazing, when they give you that love, that attention, that version of them you fell for, it feels so good. Like winning the jackpot. And your brain remembers that, craves that, keeps pulling the lever hoping for another win. That's trauma bonding. You're not addicted to the abuse. You're addicted to the relief from it, to those rare moments when they're good to you. And you keep staying, keep trying, keep hoping, because maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time the good version will stay, but it never does. Here's what happens in your brain during trauma bonding. When you're abused, when you're in danger, your brain releases stress hormones. Cortisol floods your system. Your body goes into fight or flight. You're terrified, anxious, on edge. Then your abuser switches. They're kind again, loving, safe. And your brain releases a different chemical. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone. The same chemical released when you fall in love. When a mother bonds with her baby. When you feel close to someone. Your brain is literally rewarding you for being near the person who hurt you, because they're also the one providing relief from the hurt. This is why trauma bonds feel so intense, so powerful, so impossible to break. Your brain is getting a chemical cocktail that's more addictive than any drug. The highs are higher because the lows are so low. The relief is sweeter because the pain was so bad. And slowly, without realizing it, you become dependent on this cycle, on them, not because you love them, but because your brain has been conditioned to need them. Let's talk about how trauma bonds form, because they don't happen overnight. They start with something that looks like love. Actually, it looks like more than love. It looks like destiny. This is what psychologists call love bombing. When someone overwhelms you with affection, attention, compliments, gifts, promises, they tell you you're their soulmate. That they've never felt this way before, that you're perfect, special, the one they've been waiting for. And it feels amazing, intoxicating, like you've finally found someone who really sees you, really loves you. But here's what's actually happening. They're creating an intense bond as quickly as possible, getting you attached before you see who they really are. Because once you're attached, once you're invested, once you've felt that high, it's harder to leave when things change. And they always change. The abuse starts small. So small you might not even recognize it as abuse at first. A comment that stings. A joke that hurts. A demand disguised as a request. You brush it off. Everyone has bad days. Everyone says things they don't mean sometimes. But then it gets worse. The comments become criticism. The jokes become insults. The requests become control. And when you react, when you get upset, they flip it. They say you're too sensitive, that you're overreacting, that you're the problem. This is gaslighting, making you question your own reality, your own perception, your own sanity. And it works, because you remember how good they were at the beginning, how much they loved you, how perfect things were. So you think maybe they're right. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you are the problem. And you try harder, to be better, to not upset them, to get back to how things were. But you can't, because the person you fell in love with was a performance. And now you're seeing who they really are. Except you don't realize that yet. You think they're just going through something, stressed, having a hard time. So you stay, and the cycle continues. Here's what the cycle looks like. First, there's the tension building phase. You can feel it. Something's wrong. They're irritated, cold, distant. You walk on eggshells. Try to keep the peace. Avoid saying or doing anything that might set them off. But it doesn't matter, because the explosion is coming either way. Then there's the incident, the abuse, the fight, the violence, the cruelty. They yell, they insult, they destroy, they hurt you in ways you didn't know were possible. And in that moment, you're terrified, heartbroken, ready to leave, knowing you can't stay. But then comes the reconciliation phase, the apology, the tears, the promises. They're so sorry. They didn't mean it. They'll never do it again. They love you so much. They can't lose you. Please forgive them. Please stay. And they're so convincing, so genuine, so broken themselves. So you forgive them because you love them, because they promised, because you believe they'll change. And for a while, things are good again. The calm phase, the honeymoon. They're the person you fell for again. Kind, loving, attentive. And you think, see, this is who they really are. That other stuff was just a phase. It's over now. But it's not over. The tension starts building again. And the cycle repeats. Over and over and over. And each time it cycles, the bond gets stronger. The leaving gets harder. The hope gets more desperate. Because you're not hoping for a person you've never met. You're hoping for the person they've proven they can be. That you've seen with your own eyes. And that hope keeps you trapped tighter than chains ever could. Let me tell you something about who's vulnerable to trauma bonding. You might think it's weak people, naive people, people who don't know better. But that's not true, not even close. Anyone can become trauma bonded. Strong people, smart people, people who swore they'd never be in an abusive relationship. But there are factors that make some people more vulnerable than others. The biggest one, childhood trauma. If you grew up in an abusive or chaotic home, your brain learned early that love and pain go together, that you have to earn affection, that relationships are supposed to hurt sometimes. And when you encounter that pattern again as an adult, it doesn't feel wrong. It feels familiar. It feels like home. Your brain recognizes the cycle, the highs and lows, the unpredictability. And instead of running, you stay. Because this is what love looks like to you. This is what researchers mean when they say trauma bonding often has roots in attachment wounds, in childhood experiences that taught you to attach to people who hurt you. Because when you're a child, you can't leave your parents. Even if they're abusive, you're dependent on them for survival. So your brain finds a way to cope, to attach anyway, to find safety in the very person who's dangerous. And that coping mechanism, that survival strategy, follows you into adulthood. You find yourself drawn to people who feel familiar, who create that same dynamic, who hurt you and love you in the same pattern you learned as a child. Not because you want to be hurt, but because your brain is trying to heal the original wound by reenacting it with a different person, trying to get it right this time, trying to finally be loved the way you needed to be loved back then. But you can't heal a childhood wound in an adult relationship, especially not an abusive one. You just end up traumatizing yourself all over again. Here's what trauma bonding does to your sense of self. At first, you know who you are. You have boundaries, values, standards, a clear sense of what you will and won't accept. But slowly, piece by piece, that starts to erode. Your abuser tells you who you are, and it's never good. You're too emotional, too difficult, too much, not enough. They criticize everything. Your appearance, your personality, your intelligence, your worth. And at first, you argue back. You defend yourself. You know they're wrong, but they don't stop. Day after day, week after week, month after month, the criticism is constant. And slowly, you start to believe it. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you are difficult. Maybe you're lucky anyone wants to be with you at all. Your sense of self starts to crumble. You don't trust your own judgment anymore. Don't trust your own feelings. Don't trust your own worth. You become dependent on them to tell you who you are, what you should think, how you should feel. And that dependency is part of the trauma bond. You can't leave someone you need to define your reality. This is what psychologists call identity erosion, the gradual loss of self that happens in abusive relationships. And it's one of the most painful parts of trauma bonding. Not just losing the relationship, but losing yourself in it, not knowing who you are anymore without them. Let's talk about why leaving feels impossible. People who've never been trauma bonded don't understand. They say, just leave. Why is that so hard? But they don't know what's happening inside you. The war between what you know and what you feel. Logically, you know you should leave. You can see the abuse. You know it's wrong. You know you deserve better. But emotionally, the thought of leaving creates panic, terror, a feeling like you're going to die if you don't have them. And that's not an exaggeration. That's what your nervous system actually believes. Because your brain has learned to associate this person with survival, with safety, even though they're the danger. When you think about leaving, your body goes into crisis mode. Your heart races. You can't breathe. You feel like you're dying. And the only thing that stops that feeling is going back, reconnecting, resolving the conflict. So you stay, not because you want to, but because leaving feels physiologically impossible. This is the cruel trick of trauma bonding. Your survival instinct, the thing designed to protect you, keeps you in the relationship that's destroying you. There's also shame, deep, suffocating shame. You know people judge you for staying. You judge yourself for staying. You think, I should be stronger, smarter, better. How did I let this happen? And that shame makes you hide, isolate. Stop telling people what's really going on. Because if they knew, they'd confirm what you already fear, that there's something wrong with you, that you're weak, that you deserve this somehow. So you perform. You pretend everything's fine. You defend your abuser to others. And that makes the bond even stronger. Because now you've committed publicly to this relationship, to this person. And leaving would mean admitting you were wrong, admitting you wasted time, admitting people were right about them. That shame keeps more people trapped than the abuse itself sometimes. Here's something people don't talk about. Trauma bonding doesn't always end when the relationship ends. You can physically leave and still be trauma bonded, still feel that pull, still crave them, still hope they'll change. This is why people go back, sometimes multiple times. It's not that they didn't mean it when they left. It's that the bond doesn't break just because you changed your address. The withdrawal is real, physical, painful. You miss them desperately, even though they hurt you, even though you know you shouldn't. You find yourself checking their social media, driving by their house, hoping they'll text, hoping they won't. Your brain is literally in withdrawal from the person it was addicted to. And just like any addiction, the cravings can be overwhelming. The risk of relapse is high. This is why leaving a trauma bond requires support, professional help, a safety plan, People who understand what you're going through. Because willpower alone isn't enough. Not when your brain chemistry is working against you. So how do you break a trauma bond? How do you heal? It starts with no contact. Absolutely no contact. Every time you interact with them, you feed the addiction. Give your brain another hit of the drug it craves. You have to cut them off completely. Block their number. Block social media. Ask friends not to tell you about them. This is the hardest part. Your brain will scream for contact. Will manufacture reasons why you need to reach out. But you can't. Not if you want to heal. Then you need to educate yourself about trauma bonding. Read. Watch videos. Talk to therapists who understand. Because understanding what happened to you helps you stop blaming yourself. Helps you see that this wasn't weakness. This was a psychological phenomenon that would have affected anyone in your situation. You also need to reconnect with yourself. The self that got lost in the relationship. Remember who you were before them. Remember what you liked, what you valued, what made you laugh. Start doing those things again. Slowly rebuild your identity separate from them. Therapy helps. A lot. Especially trauma-informed therapy. A good therapist can help you understand how your past made you vulnerable to this bond. Can help you process the abuse. Can teach you to recognize red flags so it doesn't happen again. And most importantly, can help you learn that you're worthy of real love. The kind that doesn't hurt. That doesn't require you to lose yourself. That feels safe instead of addictive. Building a support system is crucial. People who believe you, who don't judge you, who understand that leaving was the hardest thing you've ever done. Support groups for survivors of abuse can be life-changing. Being around people who get it, who've been there, who don't need you to explain why you stayed. That understanding can heal in ways nothing else can. You also need to grieve. Because even though the relationship was abusive, you still lost something. You lost the person you thought they were, the future you imagined, the version of love you believed in. That loss is real, and it deserves to be mourned. Let yourself cry. Let yourself be angry. Let yourself feel everything you didn't let yourself feel while you were in it. That's part of healing, part of letting go. And finally, you need to be patient with yourself. Healing from a trauma bond takes time. You'll have good days and bad days. Days where you feel strong and days where you want to go back. That's normal. That's expected. That's part of the process. Don't beat yourself up for it. Don't tell yourself you're failing. You're healing. And healing isn't linear. Here's what I want you to understand if you're in a trauma bond or have been. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're someone whose brain did exactly what brains do when exposed to intermittent reinforcement and abuse. You survived. That's what trauma bonding is. A survival strategy that kept you alive in an impossible situation. It's not your fault that your brain created this bond. Your brain was trying to protect you, but now you're safe. Or you can be safe. And that survival strategy isn't needed anymore. You can let it go. You can heal. You can learn what real love feels like. Love that doesn't hurt. Love that doesn't confuse. Love that doesn't require you to lose yourself. That love exists. I promise you it does. But first, you have to believe you deserve it. You have to believe you're worth it. And if you're reading this, if you've gotten this far, you are. You're absolutely worth it. So if you're still in it, please know, you can leave. It's hard, but it's possible. And there are people who will help you. And if you've already left, I'm proud of you. That took courage most people don't understand. Keep going. Keep healing. Keep choosing yourself. You're not going back. You're moving forward, one day at a time. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you don't think about them anymore. You don't miss them. You don't feel that pull. And you'll know you're free.